Amazon, so we're actually architected to be multi-cloud. So right now we're on Amazon, Rackspace, and Joyent. And to be fair, we're architecting that way because we really do want to look forward and be able to have this as an infrastructure that could be deployed in a private cloud. But right now we're focusing on the public cloud.
So how do you feel about the DynamoDB?
That's a great question. So DynamoDB, I think it's a little bit more competitive with something like Cassandra. So DynamoDB is a key value store. And unlike Mongo, it doesn't have a full query language. So Mongo is more like SQL, and it's got this full rich query language where you can slice and sort and do filtering on almost any field. Dynamo is more like Cassandra. It's more like a key value store. You kind of have to know ahead of time how you store things. And I think one thing about Dynamo is it suffers from the Roach Motel syndrome. Right? So you can, if you want to use it, you can, and you put your stuff on Amazon. But if you want to leave Amazon and you want to run your code somewhere else, you can't because DynamoDB doesn't run anywhere else.
In terms of the vision you have for the company, database as a service, do you believe that Mongo is the first of a number of databases that you'll support in this manner?
Oh, that's a good question. Right now, we are purely focused on MongoDB, and instead of thinking about our next step as kind of going broad, we're getting a lot of traction with some of the services we're offering on top. So I didn't mention this before, but one of the cool things we do is we offer a REST API on top of all the databases that are managed at MongoLab. And what else that allows us to do is got a lot of cool mobile developers who will sometimes just take JSON and send it right from the phone through our REST API and into MongoDB. Because MongoDB stores JSON underneath, it's really great for APIs. So our API layer has gotten a lot of traction, and so we're looking to grow a little bit up like that more than broad.
Okay, and do you have any concerns about 10gen wanting to get into this business, given that they had written some of the underlying code?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are an official partner of 10gen. On our more expensive plans, we actually package up the commercial support from 10gen and offer that to our customers. Their business model is kind of like the Red Hat JBoss. They're doing commercial support for open source stuff. And they've made official partnerships, not just with us. There's other folks out there. So Red Hat, VMware, they all offer MongoDB services. And so we work very closely with them, and it's just really not what they're interested in. It's a business where you carry a pager versus shipping software are very different businesses, and they're very focused on the database technology, the core technology.
Do you define yourself as more of an operational entity with some technology roots, or vice versa?
You mean in terms of as a company? Yeah, all of us by training are software developers, and we're really growing, I'd say, as a team. The operational stuff is what's more new to us. Most of us have done straight software development where we ship software. But the service part of this is crucial, right? The one thing we've learned is that the name of the game is customer support. The name of the game is responding fast to customers. Is this the direction you're going with the question? Is this what you're asking?
So I think the follow-up to that, though, is consistency is not necessarily one of the hallmarks here, right? So I think.
Do you mean data consistency?
Yeah.
Actually, MongoDB is great in that way. It's got a very tunable consistency model. So if you want strong consistency, you can dial it that way. And every time you write something, you read back, you'll get the same thing. It's not the case that MongoDB forces you into the eventual consistency world like some of the other NoSQL databases. Mm-hmm. If you want to use it in an eventual consistency way, you can do that as well. You can set up replicas and slaves out there, and you can say, hey, I don't care how long it takes for things to get over there. I'm just going to throw it into the master and let it replicate as it replicates. But you can tell MongoDB that you want a very strong consistency across the cluster and tell it that it needs to write to all of them before the client returns back and says that it's actually been written to the database.
If I'm buying something from MongoLab,
yeah.
What kind of SLA do you give me on performance versus consistency at that point?
We do not have an official SLA right now. We're working on that. What I tell folks is you can have my cell number.
Okay.
Yep, but we're small, got a great reputation for responding to within minutes to any problems, but we do not have an official SLA.
Okay.
Object Labs. If someone wants to use you to provide the back-end support, right,
yes.
One of the evaluation criteria is how sustainable is the company,
yes.
how well-financed is the company. I went on the website. It was hard for me to tell who your investors were. It looks like you have a relationship with another company, Object Labs. Could you explain that?
Oh, sorry, yeah. So the actual official name of our company is Object Labs. MongoLab is our first product. It's the brand we put forward. We are funded, I had a slide here before, but we're funded by Foundry Group, Baseline, and we raised a $3 million Series A in last May.
Okay.
So it looks like if a lot of the small business, like go to a website, start up a database, and go forward.
Yeah.
So how do you scale, or how do you know that there might be planning on some kind of a big campaign where a large amount of data is going to come in? So how do you interact with your customers?
That's a great question. We do have systems in place to try to keep ahead of them in terms of resources and disk and things like that. But there is a community. For our bigger customers, even though it's self-service, there is some touch, and we will talk to them, and then most likely we'll ask them a little bit about what they're doing, what their capacity plans are, and the extent to which we've automated the ability to grow. We get better every day. We have a lot of things that can kind of grow on demand, but there are still some things we kind of need to communicate with them, and so we do talk to them, and there is a little bit of a back and forth there.
Now I know one of the things is MongoDB, but in terms of cloud providers like HP has made it very clear that they're going to get into database as a service. I noticed Microsoft's name wasn't up there.
Yeah.
What's your relationship with trying to get into those?
Yeah, so we want to run on all those cloud providers. So unlike some other cloud services, it's really important that the database layer is very close to the app tier so that there's very low latency between your application and the database. So it's crucial to run on all the providers. The ones we don't work with yet, we're talking to them, and we're trying to go very broad there.
And you mentioned, you kind of went pretty quickly over this, but what's the future plan for, it's great I can migrate between clouds if I want, but what if I do want to run it as a private cloud? I mean, is that in your 1-year plan, 2-year plan, 3-year plan?
I'd say it's in the 2-year plan. So 1 to 2 year plan. 3 years, I think, a little too far out. From an architecture, technical standpoint, we're designing for that. The things you have to do actually to design to be on multiple clouds are kind of the same things you have to do technically to design to go into the private cloud. But in terms of a business model, the way you sell, the way you handle support, it's very different. So we're focusing on the public cloud now, and I think somewhere between the next 1 to 2 years, also just depending how the industry moves, we're going to look to get into some of those.
But could you just go the cloud stack and the open stack route and then say, as long as your private cloud follows that?
Right. Yeah. That's a great example, right? Like, we're hoping that the industry will move in the next couple of years to a place where there aren't so many options, and that things like OpenStack, and other things that are related emerge as a standard that we can write against to really eliminate a lot of the complexity to porting to those platforms.
Right. Okay, great. Good job.
All right.